Hello. Well, I've come out of hiding, as you see. My hair is thoroughly wet, so, oh well, maybe I should still be hiding, huh? I don't feel like it. Okay, I have my written journal from the 20th open, but it seems like my heart has other things to say. And so, let's find out what that's all about, huh? What is being? What is an I? They're big questions, and they can't be answered by the mind. To those who listen to me and find that I make no sense, and yet something draws you to listen anyway, I have a suggestion. Turn off the volume. Settle down in your heart, turn off the volume, and listen that way. Listen to your own heart. Tune into your own heart. Watch the video with no sound, listening in your heart, and see what is said to you there. Heart is magical, and I am present in all hearts, not as the being Teresa Ann, but as the I am that we come into oneness with. That is present in all of us. That's the point of our union. And divinity is quite unlimited. And our issue, no, I can't speak for you. My issue, I found, with not hearing divinity speak to me was that my mind was already too full of itself, of ego, of thoughts, of ideas, of whatever, whatever passing thought would float by. And since we're all quite telepathic, whether we acknowledge it or not, a lot of those thoughts weren't even mine. But there I was, listening to them, paying attention on that level. And as long as I was doing that, I found I never connected the way I wanted to with Source, with Spirit, with my own inner being. And so, turning off the volume is a way to empty the cup of mind. It gives mind nothing to grasp onto, and it forces it to just sit and be still. Now, it won't be still. It'll be full of its own blatherings. But you can watch that and just keep your focus in the center of your chest and see what comes. Now, this isn't appropriate or suitable for everyone, but if it is for you, you'll feel drawn to do it, and so you will. Okay, now, someone was asking me to explain. I talk about dimensions a lot. I talk about 3D all the time. And in my world, what works for me is to equate 3D and mind and ego. And I don't think that 3D or mind or ego is in any way a negative thing. Without an ego, you're not going to be very useful here in 3D. And a mind is pretty handy too. So these are wonderful things. If you're brand new to this teaching that I give on entering heart, then I'll speak to you as if mind were the enemy for just a short while, just long enough to get your attention, to make you stop and separate out and realize that you have a mind, because right now you think you are the mind. And so it's just a tool that I use to get the attention of the being who's trapped within mind. But mind is not the enemy. Mind is a very good and wonderful thing. And the 3D is not the enemy. The body is the most precious thing going. It's kind of funny, I think, sometimes from what I hear from the few good channelers that I pay attention to, our brothers and sisters from the stars esteem our bodies more than we do. There are a lot of beings that wish they had a body. We are deeply honored and privileged to be walking around in this skin suit, this DNA skin suit called a body. The challenge is that, how to say it, the powers that be. Oh, I like the way David Wilcock says. He says the powers that were, and I quite agree. Their power is swiftly slipping through their fingers. Have managed over the last number of centuries to stuff us into a little container, a 3D container. The DNA was once 12 strands. Now it's quite limited. And so all of the spectrum that we perceived isn't available to the body-mind these days. For instance, your hearing is said to be human hearing between 20 and 20,000 hertz. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That's just a rough guide. I know I hear beyond that. Our vision, has a limited range. If you look at the light spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum, you'll see that visible light is a very small slice of it. And so, what is reality? There's so much more to it that isn't perceived in 3D by the body-mind, the vehicle here. There's a lot more that we're simply not seeing. If you listen to Credo Mutwa, who is a Zulu shaman, an elderly gentleman of great depth of understanding, he says in their teachings that are passed down verbally, orally, mankind used to live with the quote-unquote gods, with the beings, the star brethren, and see them and be aware of them. And it was after our DNA was altered that we no longer saw them. That doesn't mean they aren't here. It's like your spiritual guide. We all have them, sometimes more than one. Do you see them? That doesn't mean they're not present. Or angels, a guardian angel, if you will, whatever you want to call it. So there are a lot of the frequency bands that you won't be perceiving through your body or through your mind. That doesn't mean that you can't perceive them. I have found them to be perceptible, but it's not like the mind can drive that car and choose to go where it will and see what it will and learn what it will. It doesn't work like that. This is not in the realm of mind. Mind needs to be put not in the driver's seat, not in the passenger seat, but in the back seat. And the heart needs to drive. The heart has its own intelligence. And will is a different thing. Right now, I think a lot of us have our will mixed up with our mind. We think what the mind wants, that's the will. And we haven't separated out enough yet from 3D, from the body, from the mind, to realize that we exist on higher dimensions. On the highest dimension where we exist, it's God. It's Source. It's divinity. It's the oneness, the union. And it's like a flute with all of those different notes, but you don't always play the high notes. And the one playing the flute certainly isn't the flute, you know. Maybe the body is like the flute, the body and the mind. Or maybe the mind is like the breath that blows through it. I don't know. Where is the will? One thing I know for me is that it's been really helpful to separate out from all of it and just to sit back and observe and not interfere, just to watch. And I have found again and again that by centering in the chest, what I call heart, it's not really that. That's just a word I'm using. It's a pointer, as Eckhart Tolle says. I find that by centering in the heart, I'm tutored, I'm taught, I'm guided into such experiences as are amazing. Wherever I sit in my house, I usually have a box of tissues close by. I'm often a water pot. You know, the emotions flow strongly of whatever kind. I welcome them. I have learned that emotions are our teacher. They're not something to repress. They're not something to disdain. They're not something to judge and condemn. It's a teacher. We have something to learn from whatever comes up. There's a message for us, whether it's a thought or a feeling or what. Now, sometimes the message is to stand in your own divinity, your dignity, your power, and reject a thought and say thanks but no thanks. Get lost. You're not mine. Not me, not mine. This is somewhat rambling. See, the challenge is to those in mind, because mind has to be set down. I don't know any other way. I can't tell you why this is. Only that it is. And it may turn out instead that this is a limitation of me. Okay? That's possible. I just know what works for me. And I'm just so joyfully happy. And it feeds my soul to share. And so I do. And I find as I journal that things are revealed to me. I don't have a full understanding until I sit down with the journal, and then the understanding seems to flow. Why is that? I gave up questioning it a couple of decades ago. It's just so consistent that why? Does the why really matter? Isn't it sufficient that that works that way? It is for me now. And if someday later all of these things are explained to me, well, that'll be great then. Meanwhile, how this is now, I'm fine with it. I'm truly, deeply fine with it. I don't feel that I have to know everything. Now, on that note, there are these ideas around enlightenment. I'm beginning to think that enlightenment itself is kind of a, how do I say, a lie? Or there are a lot of lies around it. And I think in a lot of cases, it's not that they're lies, it's just that we're misled. Mind tries to have ideas around something that is so far beyond mind that mind isn't capable of containing it. I can resonate with you if I can contain you. I can empathize with you if I've walked a mile in your shoes, so to speak. If I have within my experience what you're sharing, something of it, then that makes it much, much easier for me to follow along with what you're sharing. And I know that works both ways. What I offer or teach is experiential. And the beauty of it, I think, is that it's available to anyone and everyone. You don't have to be good enough. You don't have to be advanced enough. You don't have to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. And I feel sorry for you if you think you're perfect, or if you're striving to be perfect. I haven't met a perfect being yet. And I'm really not interested in finding one. I don't believe in it at this point. What I find is that even the gurus and teachers that come along, the sages, the holy ones, the gods even, if you will, the ones that mankind used to call gods, which is our star brethren, they know what they know what they've mastered, and they can speak from the fullness of their own path, but their path isn't everything. I haven't found a single being anywhere in time-space, through reading, through direct experience, through contact on the inner planes, that's perfect and that knows everything. In 3D, we complete one another. I need you. I need what you've specialized in. I need you to share that with the community so that I am enriched. Because I'll never be you. I'll never walk the way that you've walked and have your embodiments and have your experiences and have the joy and the desires of your heart. All of that has helped hone you and your path into what you are now. And that's really valuable, and it's irreplaceable. And so there's not anyone or anything that doesn't have something to offer into the mix. And I'm finding too that hierarchy is a lie. There's no one truly above us, and there's no one truly beneath us. Lucifer, Satan, devils, demons, these things are not beneath you. There's a oneness. These are aspects of it, aspects of being. And be in heart. If you've got belief systems that get in the way of this, that's okay, but it would be easiest if you would just set them on the table over there for now and go back and pick them up later. Maybe try this on. There is an awesome equality across time, space, dimensions, densities, planes, whatever you want to call it. No being is better than another. And each being is perfect in what they offer. And don't you find sometimes that you love someone for their little imperfections? That makes them endearing and sweet? Don't you find sometimes that it's certain imperfections that were necessary for you along your way, that they were important, they fed into your divine plan in some way? I think we've got false ideas around perfection and purity. And, you know, it is what it is. It's just my understanding at this point. And I love entering into discussion with you. I don't mind it a bit when you disagree. That can be some of the most fruitful discussion that's held respectfully as a back and forth kind of a thing. But don't expect me to be able to explain things to your mind, so try to be in heart when you write or comment. And then what happens is when I read your comment, it links into my heart and the words just start flowing. I don't know where they come from. But that's the best way. And then I learn as I'm writing. It's an amazing thing. But there really is an equality. And so if you're feeling unequal in any way, if you're feeling minimized, if you're feeling small or worthless or any of that, I would say know that it's your programming. We're easier to control when we feel that way about ourselves. Once we step into heart, into our own power, dignity, and divinity, we can't be controlled. And of course, that's the worst possible thing for the powers that were. They want us feeling small and worthless, inconsequential. Okay, now is that... feels like there's something more. don't know. I'm not in the mood right now to read this other journal. I think it would make this tape too long. About the higher dimensions, I experience a lot of things that I don't put words to, that I don't have a mental understanding of. So I have experiences, and I enjoy it when someone else is speaking about their experiences, and perhaps they've specialized more in this or that area or something, and when what they say resonates inside of me, that might help give me more of a context for my own experience. So I feel like we're all learning all the time, all the way, and I think that includes our star brethren, the ETs. I don't think they're perfect either. I think we need to stop this eternal search for a savior, for a guru, for a teacher, for perfection outside of ourself. That's the other thing that wanted to be said for sure. There is no perfection outside of you that you won't find within. It's holographic. So the whole is contained within each of the parts. The whole is contained within you, even within one cell of your body. The whole of the universe of cosmos is contained. There's nothing really out there. It's all just a seeming. This is a type of virtual reality that we live in. It's a major, major game we're playing, and I don't say that to degrade or demean it in any way. That's just the nature of it. There are those who can walk through walls and float through the air. There's a lot more of this in Asia. The consciousness and the culture, I believe, is more adapted to or suitable to understand and encourage and accept it when it appears. We have been made into the jailers for one another. I think David Icke has that down pat. The sheep are guarding the sheep, and when anyone steps out of line, they get condemned and they get given a hard time, and that's a shame. We need to support one another in our individuality and in our dignity and in our right to be who and what we are and to see things the way we choose to see them. That shouldn't be so threatening that someone needs to condemn us for it. And yet it happens, that in sharing your heart, someone will really shut you down. Well, what they're doing is they're shutting you out of their heart, and that's their right, and so on. And I wouldn't abridge that. But let all be done with respect. And let's give the dignity that is due to every part of cosmos, to every creature. If you can, if you have to kill a bug, a fly, or something, if you can't capture it and let it go, if you have to kill it, do it with respect. Do it with a little prayer for the being. Nature will begin to speak to us when we begin to see with inner vision what's there. Love to you. See you again soon.